Okay, I'd like to call to order this public hearing concerning the intent of the Board of Education of the district to sell $3.3 million of working cash bonds, as well as a public hearing on the 2020-2021 budget. Roll call, please.
Ms. Kaczkowski? Ms. Zeck?
Here.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Gluskin?
Here.
Ms. Urban?
Here.
Mr. Simmons?
Here.
Ms. Brooke?
Here. Okay, so Mr. Camps?
Yes. So briefly, we are issuing $3.3 million in working cash bonds. The actual amount that we will receive will be closer to 3.2. The difference being is fees. And this is the second step in the three-step process, which is the hearing. And as we discussed last board meeting, the funds will be utilized eventually for the continued upkeep and improvement of all of our buildings.
Okay. As this is a hearing that's being held for issuing the bonds, do we have any questions from the board regarding this issue?
No.
Okay. Okay. Have we received any public comments regarding the issuance of the bonds?
No, we have not.
Okay. Very good. Could I please then have a motion to adjourn this public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call. Oh, now we're going to the budget.
I need a roll call, though, please.
Roll call. Yes. Roll
Thank
call,
you.
please.
Ms. Zeck?
Here.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Gluskin?
Here.
Ms. Urban?
Here.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke?
Here.
Ms. Kaczkowski?
Here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So now we have the public hearing on the 2021 budget. Mr. Camps?
Yeah, so if you recall, during our tentative budget, we had a deficit of $339,000, and that was strictly due to the fact that we do not anticipate a growth in our property tax revenue. For the adopted budget, that deficit is basically the same. I continue to maintain we won't see any growth in property tax revenue, so I've kept the property tax revenue the same. There's a couple of ups and downs that I can tell we can have. For example, I believe our food service revenue will be lower because I think it looks like the amount of meals we're going to be serving will be lower. On the other hand, the food service expense will also be lower. So that sort of offset each other. In terms of transportation costs, we'll probably have less expenses in that area, as you'll see in a resolution that that'll be presented in a little bit. On the other hand, I believe we're going to spend a little more than anticipated in PPE based on everything that's going on. Net, we're looking at a $324,000 deficit. Again, it's driven by property tax revenue not growing. Having said that, the estimated fund balance at the end of this fiscal year is estimated to still be above 100%.
Board members, any questions? Okay, as this is a public hearing regarding our 2020-21 budget, have we received any comments about this particular item?
No, we have not.
We have not. Okay, if that is all, can then I please have a motion to adjourn this budget public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Miss Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gluskin,
Yes.
Miss Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Simmons,
Yes.
Miss Brooke,
Yes.
Miss Ketchkowski,
Yes.
Miss Zach.
Yes.
We are adjourned from the budget public hearing. I would now like to call to order the regular business meeting for the Board of Education for District 63. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gluskin,
Yes.
Miss Urban, yeah. Mr. Simmons,
Here.
Miss Brooke,
Here.
Miss Ketchkowski,
Here.
Miss Zach,
Here.
Miss Anderson.
Here.
Okay. So now we have the opportunity to review any public comments that have been made and submitted. Over the past few weeks, the board has received emails. One from two emails have been submitted to the board directly about some technology issues that a specific family was having. And although the family did indicate that things were going very, very well in terms of the response of the district, the family is, needless to say, feeling a great deal of frustration that the child is not learning. And then the other email that we received directly was from a parent who is concerned about the metrics that we are using for our reopening plan. And I do know over the course of the next few weeks, and I'm just going to state, as since we've had our reopening plan, I know that it has been made clear that it is a very fluid process and that metrics will be changing. Our situation has been changing, and it changes not even daily, but multiple times a day. So those were a couple of concerns. We did receive also, I believe, through the public comment section portion, a parent very, very pleased, feeling that everything has been going very smoothly, and has been praising our district for all of the good work. Debbie, I don't know if we received anything else.
Nothing in additional to that.
Okay, very good. Okay. All right. Could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Miss Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Simmons,
Yes.
Miss Brooke,
Yes.
Miss Ketchkowski,
Yes.
Miss Zach,
Yes.
Miss Anderson,
Yes.
and Mr. Gluskin.
Yes.
And that motion passes. Okay, we are moving on to the report section. I do not have anything to report at this time, so I will mute myself and allow board members to comment.
I'll just go real quick. I got to go to Gemini twice for student pickup, and I just want to say that it was for material pickup, and I think it was done nicely. There was a huge crowd for seventh graders right at around 3:30, but I think it was done nicely. It was nice and smooth, so good job to Gemini for that. I also got to see I watched a little bit of Melzer's Welcome Back Parade, and that was fun to watch. People decorated their cars, honking, and I saw police, and I was like, oh no, what's going on? And then I realized they were leading off the parade. So I sat there and watched it for a while. So that was nice of them too. That's all I had.
Today I attended the virtual IASB presentation on Are Your Students Engaging and Learning? It was interesting, but it was more kind of a testimonial to software to programs that a couple of districts had used to help them track data regarding their students' e-learning. I also wanted to point out, and most of you probably know this already, in lieu of III, there's going to be an online summit on November 20th from 9 to 3. The summit will be archived, and it has not yet been determined if there will be a fee required in order to view that. Also, Walter, you may have heard IASB is working on how to host the delegate assembly, which is normally held during III. We're trying to figure out how to do that with 400 delegates because they do have 14 resolutions to deal with. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I have not heard that, so thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
I have just some small things similar to Crystal's. I've done supply pickup a couple times. I've also done a subsequent kindergarten pickup today, and all of those have gone really smoothly. And my kids have really enjoyed seeing their teachers, and the teachers have been really generous, waving and putting in all that time. We also attended the Melzer back to school parade, and it was wonderful and exciting, and my kids got out of the car saying let's go again, and we can't wait to start school. So I think that was a really good morale booster for the kids to get excited for the school year. So thank you to all of those who made that possible.
Anybody else? Okay, Dr. Clay.
All right. First of all, I want to start out by congratulating our board members for their success in the IASB Master Board Member Program. I don't even know if you guys received this word yet or not, but our newest member, Katie, has achieved level 1 status, and all other members have maintained their master status. So fantastic job of continuing your learning as board members. Our remote start to the school year has actually gone really well. We've had a few glitches, which are expected, especially in the area of technology, but we'll be detailing that much more in the next report. As a reminder, we agreed to revisit our metrics for returning to school at our October meeting. But in the meantime, the area superintendents and I have started conversations about possibly developing some common metrics. We'll see how that goes, and I'll keep the board informed as those discussions take place. The current status, I want to give you some current statistics on COVID infections, since that's kind of the overall theme these days. So in Cook County, we do have some good news. The increase in new cases is ranked at a minimal level. The target is for there to be no increase or a decrease, obviously, but there were 2,764 new cases between August 16th and the 22nd, which the Illinois Department of Public Health classifies as a minimal increase. The same thing holds true for an increase in youth cases. So there were 347 new cases of youth getting COVID, and that's considered a minimal increase. And again, that target is the same. They're pushing for no increase or decline. As of September 2nd, the positivity rate for Cook County is 6.9%. The community target is to stay under 8%. But the school reopening target is 5% or lower. So we're going in the wrong direction. At our last board meeting, that positivity rate was 5.9. So we are going up. The Cook County Department of Health reports the suburban Cook positivity rate at 7.3% as of the same date. So definitely going in the wrong way. As of August 22nd, there were 112 new cases per 100,000 people. This is a significant indicator. It's how many people per 100,000. And this put us in Cook County at the warning level. The target is to have 50 per 100,000 or fewer. So we're more than double that. The Cook County Department of Health reports Des Plaines and Park Ridge, both trending higher than the overall suburban level. And Niles, Glenview, and Morton Grove are all three trending below the overall Cook County rate for new cases. And as of the same date, unfortunately, there were 25 deaths, which puts Cook County at the warning level. The target is for it to be decreasing or stable. And that's all I have for my report.
Okay, thank you. And now an update on remote learning. Mr. Roberson.
All right. Good evening. It's my pleasure to kind of share some updates related to 63 Online, which we are to the day 2 weeks into. So I wanted to first start out and just thank our District 63 community. So starting with our students and families, this is not an ideal situation. And I know parents and students are working hard to make this work. Our staff and our teachers are going above and beyond to make this as successful as possible. And our principals and administrators are working multiple hours per day to make this successful as well. So everyone deserves some grace for navigating this and this challenging situation. So I just want to thank everyone involved. Like I said, we're about 2 weeks into 63 Online, and we're going to share some preliminary data and information with you. And we will continue to monitor the implementation as we have more days and possibly weeks of 63 Online under our belts. Beyond what we will express to you tonight, you will see additional information and data on the report linked for you in board docs. So I'll first start by talking a little bit about what attendance has looked like for 63 Online thus far. Again, this data is based on 7 days of instruction because the way our attendance protocol is put into place is that families do it at the end of the week when students have a chance to complete a week's worth of learning and assignments. So this is based on 7 days, our first 7 days of instruction. You'll see a link there in board docs that will give you information which is sorted by school and grade level. Our average district-wide attendance rate is at a little over 55%. So this is something that we predicted, that there would be a learning curve for parents submitting attendance within the first few weeks. So we're hoping that that smooths out a little bit and we have some higher responses. We also have some internal processes to kind of cross-check submitted attendance with what teachers are seeing during instruction and the completion of assignments and work. With that being said, we are in the first few weeks of school. We don't have substantial data around student work completion through PowerSchool. We do anticipate, however, that more data will come in as we go a little bit deeper. Obviously, the first couple of weeks of school are all about building relationships, strengthening classroom communities, and assessing readiness levels of students. So keeping this all in mind, staff at each school have a district-wide protocol to follow in connecting with students that, one, have not submitted any attendance through PowerSchool, and two, have not attended or completed any assignments. And our Director of Special Services, Jen Pacheco, will go into a little bit more detail about that in just a little bit. Shifting a little bit, I'm going to talk about, we inevitably knew that when we implemented 63 Online, we would have to make some adjustments based on feedback and things we were noticing to make it a better experience for everyone involved. We anticipated this. And so just kind of 3 big things that we shifted within the first few days of school. We have learning plans. Every student, actually every classroom and teacher has a learning plan for their class that students follow. After the first couple of days, we worked to make it even easier for students to access. We originally had that placed on our school web pages. We wanted to make it easier, especially for our youngest learners. So we added that to all students' ClassLink portals so they could easily get that tab when they logged into their Chromebooks in the morning. Another shift was technology supports. While we had a comprehensive responsive plan that was developed to support staff and families and students, our technology department shifted quickly to support our families in other ways. They've been doing that through email, in-person support at the Education Service Center, and then they've been remotely accessing Chromebooks to see issues in real time. And Keith Schaefer will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then finally, Google Meet, which is what we're using right now to stream this board meeting, is what students use to have live instruction from their teachers. There were some initial bumps in the road using this, with students being able to see all of their peers versus seeing information that teachers were sharing. Our technology department jumped on this as quickly as possible to make the learning experience better for students. So adding additional features, taking some off that weren't working, and so forth. We made some other shifts, but those were some of the initial big ones that we made. I'm going to pass it on to Keith Schaefer to give you some more detailed information about what technology support has looked like through this process.
Thank you, Mr. Roberson. We've deployed approximately 3,400 Chromebooks to students in about 200 hotspots. We have more that are going out soon. To support parents, we have also created job aids that are available online that they can easily access. We've also got some videos with those that our coaches have created. We've, as Aaron mentioned, we've implemented a help desk. The first thing we did was, in-person help desk where people can bring in their devices and get some support. We've also have a ticketing system, and then most recently a remote support system where we can remote onto the device and give them some assistance if they're having problems understanding what we're trying to describe. The help desk ticket has been pretty effective. We've had 329 tickets in the first 2 weeks. The response time isn't bad. We've got almost half of them at an hour or less, but sometimes tickets come in at night over the weekend, so this response times get extended out. Resolution time too, we try to turn those around really quickly. We know it's important for parents to feel supported and for students to have devices that work as well as possible. And then finally, we've got some information on support feedback. Overall, we're doing pretty good. About 90% of those who have responded have said the support has been good. We can do better, and we're trying to. Number one issue that we're experiencing is lag and disconnects with Google Meets. It is something to do with overloaded processors, and districts across the country, independent of platform, whether it's Zoom or Google Meets, are experiencing these problems. We're working with our vendors, both Google, Dell, Lenovo, to try to resolve this as quickly as possible. We're in constant daily contact with our Google rep. So we're working as hard as we can towards this. Do you have any questions? If not, Aaron?
All right, thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Jen Pacheco is going to give a little update on our return to school for some of our students with IEPs, and then talking a little bit about some of the additional support we're giving students and families that we haven't been able to connect with.
Yes, so we are excited to next Tuesday welcome back 60 of our self-contained students back into their schools for live instruction 2 days a week. This number represents about 66% of our overall self-contained student population. While students are with us, they'll be able to have the full spectrum of both academic and related services provided to them in accordance with their IEPs and their individualized remote learning plans. In terms of safety, we did want to make sure that we were able to maintain safe learning environments for both our staff and our students. So we have been able to provide various levels of personal protective equipment or PPE to staff, including gloves, face masks, face shields, isolation gowns, and we were actually able to also provide KN95 masks for our staff as well. Today, Leslie White hosted a demonstration of how to don and doff, take on, or put on and take off all of that equipment. So we actually have a video that we'll be able to post for staff who were not able to make that as well. So overall, we're looking forward to a really exciting first day back for many of our self-contained students on Tuesday. The other thing I'm talking about this evening is our efforts to make sure that we are connecting with all of the families in the district. To date, there are only 6 registered families, which comprise of 7 district students that we have not been able to make some kind of contact with. So when we say contacts, we're talking about any kind of contact with the family or student, including the teacher meet and greets that happened at the beginning of the year prior to 63 online, student attendance recorded during live instruction, teacher communication directly with parents, direct contact from our related service providers and special education case managers, communication with school administrators, social workers, and psychologists, and home visits from our school administrators. So it's been a lot of effort, but a lot of worthwhile effort on the part of our staff to ensure that all of our students have been connected with. You might also recall that at our last board meeting, I shared a flow chart that kind of outlined our process for identifying students who might be at risk for disengagement or be impacted by outside factors that are prohibiting them from participating in school. So we have started implementing that flow chart. It is linked in the board doc for you. So just an update to date, we've had 19 referrals to our school psychologists and social workers for additional follow-up support between our preschool and elementary schools. Of those 19 referrals, 14 were then referred to building administration for follow-up and support. As a result of those efforts, there's been 1 referral for community-based support and 5 referrals to our school-based problem-solving teams for additional support for those students. At Gemini, we've had 16 direct teacher contacts outside of those contacts we've already discussed, and 7 contacts from building administrators due to concerns about engagement or participation. And there have been no referrals to external supports or school-based problem-solving teams at this time from Gemini. So we're going to continue to follow our process and monitor student participation and engagement to ensure that we are connecting with all of our students and families. I'm happy to answer any questions about the process or our self-contained programs at this time, if you have any.
Have you tracked it all, or do you have any idea how many families actually told us, I'm going to homeschool my kid, or I'm going to make other arrangements for my child because I want them to be, educated in person and I don't like what you're doing? Do we have any idea about that?
I personally do not have those numbers. I don't know, Mr. Roberson, if you have those or have an idea.
I do not. Typically at the building level, there's a form that we have families fill out if they are choosing to homeschool their students. I have only actually heard of one family that made that choice at one of our elementary schools. Other than that, I have not heard that information, but we're happy to get that for you and share that with you. Actually, something interesting did happen that we didn't expect. We had an influx of students that actually registered for our district this year. So we added, for example, at Washington School, we added 2 kindergarten sections, a first grade section, just based on enrollment. So surprisingly, we had more students coming to us than we expected. But we can definitely look into getting that information for you.
Okay, thanks. I was just curious because I'm aware of one family that, and maybe it's the same one that you're aware of, but I know of at least one family that said they were going to homeschool their child. Thank you.
And Janet, when families are going to homeschool, the principals contact me, and I've only heard, I believe, about one family.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question as well, and I did predict that we'd see an increase a couple of board meetings ago, if you remember, because 2009 we saw a 10% increase between 2008 and 2000, or 8%, something like that, because of the economic factors in many cases. But my question is that 55% that you mentioned in terms of attendance, what's our standard follow-up plan? In terms of, do we do a physical call as soon as we realize the child did not check in the morning, or the parents, however it works?
Go ahead, Ms. Pacheco.
Oh, I was going to say, so the 55% that Mr. Roberson is referring to is that parent check-in with attendance on PowerSchool. Our teachers are just kind of keeping track, though, of who is connecting. So even if they aren't connecting in that attendance in PowerSchool, our teachers still are talking with those students, making contact, and, kind of noting like, oh, I did have, 80 or 90% of my class here today, and there are a few students that I missed. And after so many times, as outlined in the flow chart, that direct contact is made by either a member of that child's team or the classroom teacher.
But do we know? just one more question. Do we know if teachers are keeping attendance? Do they feel it's at 80%, 90% on average, or is it 60%?
That I don't know, but that is something I can find out for you.
Because the reason I ask is, so at Maine East, my son, who did not do his attendance check this morning, literally at 8:30, I got a call from the school saying he didn't check in. Is everything okay? That I think is a best practice that maybe we should consider to make sure that parents get into a habit. Older kids can probably do it on their own, whatever it is. But
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, Mr. Gluskin. The original attendance procedure we put into place was that parents don't submit attendance until the end of the week on Friday. One of the reasons that we originally put that in place is we kind of wanted to honor a little bit of flexibility with our families, knowing that we have working families, that maybe older students are taking care of younger students, or et cetera. And I think we wanted to allow some flexibility for families to finish work in the evenings and things. But I think this is a bit of a moving target, as we've never done this before. So I think your point is something that we can definitely think about. I know as a principal group tomorrow, we're talking about attendance and is this the best approach? So we'll continue finding the best way to get accurate records of students attending. So we appreciate that input.
Excellent. And one more question. Sorry. Or Sheila, you can go ahead on
No,
that.
go ahead. Go ahead. You might be my question.
If anything. So.
Might be my question.
Well, all right. So the other question I have is, I love the ideas that Scott mentioned that we are looking at creating joint metrics with, I'm assuming, 62 and 64. Are we doing any benchmarking? There are not a lot of districts having live classes, but there are some public schools. I know in Northbrook, I just talked to one of the parents yesterday who's got a child in one of the Northbrook schools. Are we doing any benchmarking in terms of what's working and not working for them, so we can learn from it? So if in a month we're ready to open and go, that worked really well for that district, but boy, they said don't do this, because the plan we originally set for the hybrid model maybe is not the best plan. Maybe it is, hey, split the kids into groups of 2. Maybe we need to install cameras. So I'm kind of asking in terms of a longer term strategy. Are we updating the plan? Are we looking at other districts that are open?
Well, we have limited data on that right now, Walter, because most schools have only been open a couple of weeks. So, and we don't have instant access to that. I could try to find out more about that. I've done some reading about what Northbrook is doing and that kind of thing, but we can look into it.
Yeah, it might be a week or 2 out. I'm not saying it's got to be, first thing tomorrow morning, we got to call them and understand what they're doing. But I think it's good to benchmark because they are open and they are doing something which is potentially right on their end. But I'm sure they're also learning on the fly as well and going, oh, this we wouldn't change. I'm hearing they have a class of about 15 people. They're split the kids in half. So it's 2 days a week. Their junior high is about 600 kids, which is smaller than ours, for example, but it's not that much smaller. I think that's the opportunity to just understand what's working, what's not working. And whenever we're ready to go, we can continually, as we said, adjust our plan, make sure it's the best possible plan.
I would just warn a little bit about figuring out what's working. We may not know what's working or not working until there's an outbreak. So that's the thing. We don't know that what they're doing is working until.
Well, that's true, but my guess is no matter what, there's going to be outbreaks at some point. Every school district, every college will have some type of outbreak, but you try and minimize it. I'm assuming that's what they're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do, right, in terms of not bringing everybody in at the same time. But I think there is some opportunity to learn about what they are doing to try and minimize it. And maybe there are some ideas there that we can implement as well. Maybe there aren't, but every district is a little unique. I get that. Every day is a little unique right now. But I'm looking at what colleges are doing. Some colleges have done a really nice plan, and it's been fairly successful. My son has got a college that's got all live classes, had no cases. Will they have some by the time the year ends? Probably. But there's other colleges that have kind of said, we'll see what happens, right? And those have not turned out so well.
Right.
So my 2 cents worth.
Okay, if it's okay, we'll quickly segue into Mrs. Spector Bishop. She's going to kind of.
I'm sorry, Mr. Roberson. Sheila wanted to make a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Irvin.
Oh, that's okay. Mine just went back to the attendance, and I'm assuming that the teachers are also doing daily attendance on who actually shows up in their Google Meets classes, because that would be like attending school. And if that's the case, how does that number, I'd be curious, how does that percentage compare to the 55%? Because I agree with you, it probably is by the end of the week, parents aren't submitting. And if that's the case, that our numbers are a lot higher, that kids are actually getting onto the live instruction on time, why are we not just using that data for the teachers submitting the attendance rather than having the parents have to go through this at the end of the week or even the end of the day? I know some schools just have the teachers count it like the kids showed up in school and you're taking attendance.
Yeah, I'll try to answer that at least initially. So the teachers are keeping track of students that aren't or are attending. That's part of the flow chart process that we've been going through to identify students that we're not connecting with. The hard part here in the first couple of weeks that have made it a little bit rocky is there have been a good amount, like Mr. Schaefer talked about, over a few hundred technology issues, which are allowing students not to participate in live instruction. So we've had a good amount of families coming into the Education Service Center and getting help to figure out kind of all of these issues. So what we're hoping with after we get through the first couple of weeks of school, we'll have a firmer grasp of the students that are actually attending versus not attending. And it's not just technology issues or their Chromebook isn't working and so forth that's affecting it. So what I can say, well, I don't have the exact number for you this evening. What I can tell you is the participation is quite a bit higher than 55%. So I hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll have a firmer number for all of you. Again, I go back to one of the reasons we had parents mark the attendance, and it's something we'll keep evaluating on what's the best way to do this, is just because we're trying to honor that some of our students won't be able to complete work within the time that teachers will see them. So we're trying to say if they complete work at 7 o'clock in the evening, or they do it a day later because they've got some support from their parents or so forth, that we're still honoring that the students did complete their work and they learned. So that's part of the reason we've been trying to meld what teachers are seeing and what parents are saying is happening at home, if that makes sense.
No, I understand that with the technology issue, and that's a whole different issue. But my point is, if you've got kids that are actually logging on and they're on the Zoom or Google Meets classes all day long, they're physically present. And even if they're not turning in the work, they should still be counted present. I mean, you have kids in regular classrooms that come and just don't do the work, but they're still marked present when we're in the building. So it's kind of the same situation, but remotely. If they're there, they're listening to the instruction, even if they're not turning in the assignment digitally, they are still present in the learning.
Yes. Yeah. So that is the part that Mrs. Pacheco talked about that we're keeping track. And then the teachers are the ones that are basically saying, this student is not coming to live instruction and engaging in my class. We need to follow up with that student. So the initial Power School data we gave you was for the first 7 days of school, that what parents recorded. We unfortunately just don't have all of the data together from what teachers are saying, but hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll have that ironed out. We can give you both of those numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be great, because the 55% honestly doesn't look very good. But as a teacher myself, my guess is that number is a lot higher, that kids are actually participating in some regard, and it's just the parents aren't recording it for whatever reason the parents have. So.
Yeah, and I can tell you it is higher. So we'll definitely have information for you next time once we iron out some of these. So, yep, we're keeping track of it from both sides. So it's a fun little process to figure out the best way to make sure we don't miss any students and families. So, okay. I think the last part was Mrs. Spector-Bishop is going to talk a little bit about the feedback we've had so far.
Thank you, Mr. Roberson. And you, Alexandra, has already talked about some of the information and feedback you've received, the board has received directly from parents. I'm going to talk a little bit about the other kinds of feedback we've received. It won't surprise you to know that we've heard from lots of parents since we began the school year, and we get emails, we get phone calls, we got social media posts, private messaging on social media, and really most of those are really just requests for information, requests for technical assistance, requests for help. But we wanted to share with you some of the more general feedback, and for the purposes of this report, we gathered comments that were made once the school year got underway. We didn't really include the comments that we received during the decision-making process because that was a slightly different animal. But now that we are operating remotely, we were interested in how parents were feeling about the remote learning process. And what you will see, and the links on this report were based on tracking emails, polling principals, and running some extensive social media mention and tagging searches. You have a link there to the positive feedback that we are aware of. And the good news is that the majority of the comments we are receiving are positive. In fact, I have to say that generally we don't get on social media a lot of commenting, and that we've really seen an uptick in that, and it has been all positive. Common themes are just general appreciation of the teachers, high marks for the childcare, and just the quality of the curriculum. I have a sampler in the report, but if you click the link, you'll see all of the different kinds of feedback we are aware of and that we've gathered together, particularly the social media feedback. Want to point out that lots of that wasn't even on our own pages. We picked up some of that off of Everything Niles, which is a community page. We had a couple of parents posting to their own pages and tagging us in a positive manner. So those were nice to see. We also had some feedback that was not as positive, and these were far, far less than the positive comments. And since we made the decision to go remote, and this is somewhat shocking in today's world, we've had no negative comments on social media that we are aware of. We have had questions, we have had concerns about something with that parent, but we've been able to address those very quickly. And again, in defining negative feedback, we didn't include general requests for assistance, and we didn't include, again, comments submitted during the decision-making process. And what we included was feedback in which parents were genuinely concerned about an aspect of our program in 63 Online. And what you should know is we always responded to those comments in a very timely manner, provided clarification, tried to explain why we had made the choices that we did, and thanked them for communicating with us. And you can, again, see a sampler here and click through to the full document. Finally, all comments are anecdotal. They don't really give a full picture of what most of our parents are thinking because most of them aren't commenting at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to gain a more comprehensive understanding of where our parents stand on 63 Online, how they're feeling about sending their students back to school, and we're going to disseminate that survey on September 21. We're going to run it for a week, and we should have results available for the board before their October 1st meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is there any chance to give some feedback on the FRC programming that's going on? I've heard some really good things.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We'd make that a question on the survey. In fact,
okay.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, even in terms of, can anyone report out on what's going on there and how it's going?
Oh,
for the public?
Angie? I think we do have someone who could do that.
I can do that. We have 120 students enrolled in the program in small pods within classrooms in the building. Some groups are smaller, some groups are larger, depending really on grade level. What we found is that our youngest learners are those that need the most support, as you can imagine. Even things as simple as reading are challenging to kids who can't read, so they need more individualized support in getting through all of the e-learning and navigating apps that they've never used before in Google Classroom and things like that. Our staff are doing a phenomenal job, I think, in supporting those students and communicating with teachers to support the students that are there. Parents are grateful for the service we're providing. They're able to go to work. They're able to kind of bring some sort of normalcy to their lives. We are very safety conscious. We keep students 6 feet apart at least most of the day. The students are really good at wearing masks throughout the day, which everyone was a little bit anxious about to see how that would work. But the kids are really great at it. They even check themselves when they're in classrooms together and say, oh, you're out of your spot, or hey, pull your mask up. So that's really nice to see. And they're learning, they're engaged in their work. There's someone there who can help them navigate the technology. Tech support has been wonderful. When you have that many students and that many Chromebooks and that many staff trying to figure out how to get online, and we, experience glitches here and there, they're very quick to figure out the root problem and figure out a way to work around it to make it better. And it's been 2 weeks, and there's far fewer tech support issues that come up because now everybody is more comfortable and more familiar, and glitches have been resolved. Staff are doing a great job implementing the safety pieces as well. Everyone's in masks. There are shields available and gowns available to those who choose to wear them. Masks are required most of the time, except when eating or if they're outside and they can maintain that 6 foot distance. A lot of the kids can't do that when they're outside too, so they can kind of get a little bit closer. So they'll wear their masks as well when they're playing, and it doesn't seem to bother anybody. But it's functioning the way that it is in very small groups, in small pods.
Great. Thanks, Angie. I was wondering too, I know last month we talked about trying to reach out to those families that we felt had at-risk students to see if there was any way to bring them into the FRC. Were we able to do any outreach?
We haven't yet had to. We've been able to actually solve most of the problems with the supports we have available in our buildings at this time, but it does sound like that continues to be an option if
Great.
needed.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Sir,
Angie,
any last
oh, sorry. I have a question for Angie. I heard that there was a waiting list for the FRC, and I was wondering what is kind of being planned to help those families that are hoping to get their child or children in. Is there a way to create more spots, or is that set by the state? And if so, are these children more at risk? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a wait list. We were contacting all of the families that had been enrolled to ensure that they didn't need the spot anymore or what their situation was, and some changed their minds. Some chose to keep their students home to e-learn and for whatever various reasons. And so we looked at the wait list today and are contacting students to start based on space in rooms. So I can tell you that the space in the rooms really is where we're heading with who we can contact and who we can place.
Angie, I had a question for you too in regards to the, is there band options like for those kids that are in band to attend band? My son was on a class and the kid said he wasn't able to attend because he was at the FRC. So I don't know if that was just he didn't know or if there's some logistics.
There was an issue with the link not being, the student not having a link to the band, but we had him set up. We had a canopy outside, had a music stand ready for him, so he was able to get on the internet, be outside and do band. And the door to his classroom is right across from the door to the outside, so the teacher was able to supervise both spaces. So we had it set up, but we just couldn't get on the link. But we've since then contacted Gemini administration, who's contacted the band teacher to set that up and make sure that it goes smoothly next time.
Great. Thank you.
Janet, I have a question. I think, first of all, thank you for submitting the feedback, both the good and the bad, because we do need to be aware. So thank you for that. And I'm also very happy to hear that you will be putting out a survey to parents. Has thought been placed on sending a survey to staff, or maybe the building administrators have a sense of how the staff are feeling? I know this is a very high stress time. And, especially if there have been technology issues, I'm sure that just elevates stress levels. So I'm just curious what we're trying to do, to make sure that our staff, that they're not sinking.
We did poll our staff in June about their experience with e-learning in the spring, and Erin and I are actually meeting to discuss this tomorrow. But we could almost certainly take that survey and, with a little bit of change, perhaps disseminate it again. And in fact, it would be a good way to compare between two fixed points in time.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, board members, regarding 63 online? A huge thank you to all of you for putting this together, for making it as successful as it possibly can be. Nothing is perfect, but I am comforted knowing that the priority is our kids, and making sure they're getting what they need, our kids and our families. So thank you for that. Okay, so moving on, operations and maintenance, Mr. Barry.
Yes, good evening. I'll start with the progress report at the Early Learning Center. The carpet installation in the classroom started on Wednesday. The foundation for the monument sign has been poured, and installation is scheduled to begin next week after the holiday. The classroom cabinet installation is continuing in areas A and B. The plumber is continuing to install fixtures in all the washrooms, and some washroom partitions have actually started to go up. So we're making a lot of progress there. The tectum ceilings and the leads, which are actually double as tectum sound baffles for the foyer, were installed the other day. The painting of the storm shelter has started. Testing of the fire and sprinkler system is underway. Light fixtures are continuing to be installed in areas A and B. The ceiling grid throughout the whole building is 90% complete. Landscaper has planted basically everything that is possible so far. He's waiting for the paver to get moving so he can continue. And the siding installation started on Tuesday on the west side. So hopefully that'll start progressing, and we'll see more progress on that front. The Gemini project, basically the field project, the stone base for the track has been laid down. The electrician has run the power for the fuel outlets, and the concrete contractor started pouring a curb for the track work today. So that's all heading in the right direction. Any questions?
Anybody? All right. Well, thank you very much. Could I please have a motion to enter closed session for the discussion of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke?
Yes.
Ms. Kaczkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Sack?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ms.
Sorry.
Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gluskin?
Yes, again. Sorry.
And Ms. Urban?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. We shall return to the regular meeting. Okay. We'll just go and get started. Could I please have a motion to adopt the resolution entitled Resolution for the Adoption of the 2020-2021 Fiscal Year Budget of School District Number 63, Cook County, Illinois?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Kachkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Eck? Ms. Anderson? Oh, Ms. Eck. Okay, Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gluskin?
Yes.
Ms. Irvin?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke?
Yes, and that motion passes. Could I please have a motion to approve and accept the following donations?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes, and we thank our donors.
And thank you, Alex.
You are welcome. Could I please have a motion to approve the unpaid leave of absence requests?
May I suggest, since there are three separate employees on this motion, to make a motion on each and vote on them separately?
Mr. Simmons, go ahead and make that motion, please.
Okay, we'd like to make a motion to approve unpaid leave of absence requests. The first one would be for an employee at Apollo School.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, 1 second, please. Okay, Ms. Eck? Is she in?
She left the meeting by accident, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Anderson? Ms. Anderson, are you voting on this one? Oh, thank you. Mr. Gluskin?
No.
Ms. Urban?
No.
Mr. Simmons?
No.
Ms. Brooke?
No.
Ms. Kachkowski?
No.
Did Ms. Eck come back in the meeting?
She is back.
I am, but I missed which motion you're on. Sorry.
This was the first week.
This is the unpaid leave of absence, but we are splitting it apart for each employee. The first vote is for the employee at Apollo School. And would you vote yes or no for the leave of absence?
No.
No. And I'm sorry, Ms. Anderson, did you vote yes or no?
Sorry, no.
Thank you.
May I make a motion to approve?
Wait. Did we get everyone's vote?
Yes, on the first employee.
Okay, so that motion passes.
Correct.
May I ask for a motion to approve unpaid leave of absence for an employee at the Early Childhood Center?
So moved.
I need a second, please.
Second.
Oh, yeah. Second. Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gluskin?
Yes.
Ms. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke?
Yes.
Ms. Kachkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Eck?
Yes.
Okay.
And that motion passes.
May I please have a motion to approve an unpaid leave of absence for an employee at Melzer School?
Second.
Roll call, yes, please.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gluskin?
Yes.
Ms. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke?
Yes.
Ms. Kachkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Eck?
Yes.
And Ms. Anderson?
She left the meeting.
Okay. Ms. Anderson did.
Okay, and that motion passes.
For clarification, I'm not sure if I goofed because I was asking for a motion. Am I the one making the motion on all
I'm
three?
putting you down as the first.
Thank you. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Brooke, Ms. Anderson is back. Can I get her vote on the third employee?
I had already passed that motion.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, could I please have a motion to approve the fine arts coordinator position?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Dr. Schleiser?
Yes, anytime we're requesting data stipend, it requires board approval. And this position will serve to coordinate primarily the instrumental and vocal music programs across the district. And we would be able to have a person in the position who is an expert in instrumental music, which is both very supportive to the teachers and indirectly the students, but also I believe it will bolster our instrumental music program. So the person will also coordinate the summer program, among other things.
Sean, was there a particular incident or a series of things that occurred that this stipend is coming to us?
What were sort of the, what led to this? Is that what you're asking?
Right. What made you decide that this is something that would be good?
Yeah, so I've been working with Aaron Roberson, and a couple of our instrumental music teachers over the years to coordinate things. And every year it does require, significant effort to get everything aligned and coordinated. And it tends to happen at really busy times of the year, like in August. We felt that it made the most sense to get some support to the teachers and to the programs, again, by someone who works in the program. But it also, in a sense, removes me and Aaron from being so hands-on with like schedules and coordinating the instrumental music programs.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gluskin?
Yes.
Ms. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke?
Yes.
Ms. Kaczkowski?
Yes.
And Ms. Sack?
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes. Could I please have a motion to approve a contract amendment with our transportation services provider, First Student?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Camps, could you please provide a summary?
Yeah, so the Illinois State Board of Education continues to encourage school districts to work with their transportation companies and try to amend the contract as much as possible. If you recall, we had a couple of these amendments last spring as we shut down schools. At the same time, we are trying to obviously watching our finances and make sure we don't spend money where we don't have to. So I think this agreement achieves a good balance of the two. And what it does is we will pay for student 100% of the route costs we're supposed to pay per our normal contract for those routes that they run. Any route that they normally would run, but they're not running because of the current situation, they are giving us a 60% discount. So we're only paying 40% of that route cost. And that 40% is approximately the amount of fixed cost they have in the two facilities that they use to serve our district, Northbrook and Elk Grove. Just an additional piece of information. I organized a couple of phone calls with my counterparts in the area, District 21, 23, 57, 59, 62, and 214. The reason I chose those is because we all use First Student, and I wanted to get kind of on the same page on what everybody's doing. First Student is offering basically the same thing to all of these. And they are all accepting this agreement. There is one exception. As of a couple of days ago, District 62 is paying 100% of the routes they use and nothing of the routes they don't use. So in general, we are aligned to pretty much every other district around us that uses First Student. The last thing I will say is I also found out from District 64 who uses Grand Prairie, a different company. Grand Prairie is offering you pay me 100% of the cost of the route that I run, and you pay me 37% of the cost of the route that I would normally run, but I'm not running right now for you. So again, it's not 40%, but it is pretty close to 40%. So that makes me feel like we're in a good place. So,
Jordy, question for you. I understand that back in March, April, when we were doing these amendments, part of the rationale was also they would not lay off anybody. At that 40% level, I'm assuming they are still laying off drivers, right?
Yeah, so the drivers are actually, because we're coming off of the summer, the drivers during the summer were furloughed. Mm-hmm. And at the 40% level, they're bringing back those drivers that we're using to run routes, and those that we're not using, they're still furloughed. However, they are in contact with all of our drivers, and as we open and bring back students for hybrid learning, is they're going to bring back drivers as well. One of the things that First Student liked, they saw our hybrid plan on our website, and they realized that we have staggered, we're bringing back students by grade level and in a staggered fashion. So it's not like all of a sudden we're bringing 30 drivers. It's a little more staggered. So I think they feel pretty good about that. I'm not going to say that it's not going to be a little bumpy at the beginning. It can be. But I think they felt pretty good about doing that based on my discussion.
And then the next question is, you said that District 62 is now paying them zero for routes they're not running, 100% only for routes they're running, right?
They're paying 100% of the routes they're running, and as of a couple of days ago, they weren't going to pay them anything on the rest of the routes.
Why wouldn't we do the same thing? What's the benefit of they're not keeping the drivers, because that was the rationale before? What's the benefit to us of, I mean, I could see for a month or two, but at some point.
So, so here's my concern a little bit. If enough districts start doing that, and we had a discussion with First Student about this, if enough districts start doing this, they will make some decisions and will start shutting down some facilities. And those could include ours. And so that would put us in a little bit of a bind. And I want to move I want to move carefully here. This doesn't mean that we can't do that. We can do an amendment. This amendment ends December 31. We can renegotiate at that point, and maybe we decide to do that. I want to go a little bit slower. I recommend that we go a little bit slower.
What would our costs be from now for that 40% from now to the end of the year, approximately?
It depends on how much. So typically we pay between special ed and regular ed combined. We pay approximately $200,000 a month. Normal operations. I think we're talking about a little bit above 50%. So a little bit above 100,000 is what I'm thinking per month, going for between now and December. So it's a significant amount of cost reductions we're seeing. And again, it depends on how many routes we start up again and how quickly we do that. So,
Yeah, that's the challenge.
yeah.
So with this amendment, this is assuming it runs through the end of the school year, is that correct?
So the amendment expires December 31st, or whenever we bring back everybody, whichever happens first, which is why I'm saying December 31st. Yeah.
Got it.
And at that point, we renegotiate.
I'd personally be more comfortable with amendments in 30-day increments because I'm guessing if we're in that bag by December 31st, it'll be a long, long time after that. But
I just don't know if we could do a 30-day turnaround time, Walter.
60 days. I'm just not.
I mean,
it's not. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for potentially services we will never use. I understand why, but I'm also thinking if 62 is the other districts going to start pulling out too.
Well, I think one thing to consider is that we are planning on bringing kids back gradually, by grade level. And so we want to be able to move quickly. Once we make the decision that a grade level is able to come back, we want for a student to be in position to do that as quickly as possible. So I think that was part of Jordy's and my discussion when we decided that we were going to recommend this particular agreement.
All right, I can live with it till December 31st.
Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. I don't want us to be in a situation.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to help because if other districts pull out, it may not help, but I understand the viewpoint and I'm hoping we will use the buses. I really am.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. Any further questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Camps, for clarifying all of that. Roll call, please.
Ms. Poston? Ms. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke? Ms. Kaczkowski?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Zeck?
Yes.
And Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Can I make a motion to consolidate agenda items 8.5 through 8.13 into one motion?
So,
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke?
Yes.
Ms. Kaczkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Zeck?
yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gluskin?
Yes.
And that motion passes. Could I please have a motion to enter closed session for the discussion of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Brooke?
Yes?
Ms. Kaczkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Zeck?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gluskin?
Yes.
Ms. Urban?
Yes.
That motion passes. We do not anticipate to return. The next regular business meeting of the Board of Education will take place on Thursday, October 1st at 7 p.m. Thank you.